Peace, peace. Here we go. Mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Y'all already know what we about to do. Me and my crew. Late night 1 2. Freestyle off the dome. You know how we do. Scripted or unscripted, freestyle or written. Everything fantastic sounded like the scripture. What's going on? Peace and blessings to everybody who joining me tonight. As you can see, I'm in a good mood. I feel elevated. I feel levitated. I just meditated. So now I feel elated. How's everybody doing? We usually get started on our Wednesday night live streams about 7 minutes in. So as y'all come in, spitting that hot fire, you already know. You already know. Come on in. Let me know how y'all doing. Let me know how you feeling. Rita, how are you today? How was your day going? How are you doing over there? Let me know how you feeling. Let me know what's going on. You had a great day. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. I had a good day myself. Took my sons out to Six Flags. Is it a pajama shirt? No, it was a nice day where I am. I'm in Maryland. So today in Maryland it was Amanda, what's up? Today in Maryland it was like 85 degrees. It was real nice. So this is my sleazy 1970s sexy dad shirt. That's what I call it. Yeah, it was fun, but it was miserable because the lines were super long. It was hot. I wore jeans. I don't know why I was wearing jeans. I should have wore shorts. My son told me to wear shorts. I'm outside with jeans and some big Adidas sneakers on. Hot, irritated, but it was okay. But one thing I did do, I actually bought a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I've been trying to learn to play. I need a wire account. I learned the butterfly joint, right? Yeah, I bought an acoustic guitar. I've been trying to learn how to play. Jackie, how you doing? Kiran, how you doing? Hopefully everybody's doing good and feeling good. I bought an acoustic guitar, and there's a song I love by a group called Alice in Chains. The song is called Nutshell. Beautiful song to play acoustically. If you ever saw Alice in Chains way back in the day in the 90s, they did the MTV Unplugged back when everybody was doing MTV Unplugged. And they had that song. The first song they played was actually Nutshell. And I always loved that song. So I bought a guitar, decided I wanted to learn how to play that song. And let me just tell you, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't play nowhere near as good as I thought I would. I thought I would just be a natural. I thought I would get the guitar and just be like Jimi Hendrix, like learn within a couple of hours how to play the song. Oh my God. I can't even get my guitar to sound like a guitar. I'm trying to tune it. It sounds crazy when I tune it. Amanda, you love acoustic guitar? Yeah, me too. I love music, period. You want to hear the riffs? Nah. I gotta actually learn how to play a riff. At first, I started off, I was like, I'm about to learn this song, top to bottom, start to finish. Man, it was so hard and it sounded so bad. I said, okay, let me just start from the beginning. Let me learn how to hold the guitar first. That's how crazy it was. I had to take it all the way back to the beginning. I'm trying to jump right on in. I don't even know what I'm doing. Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to learn how to master it. Best things in life are hard. I agree. But it's gonna be fun though, because I just love music. I love music. So just sitting there today outside, nice beautiful day. My sons are in the yard playing, and I'm just sitting there strumming along. It was a cool feeling. It was a little bit frustrating because my guitar sound crazy. I'm trying to tune it. It don't sound right. I can't tune it right. You got a tongue drum. Now what's a tongue drum? I never heard of a tongue drum before. Is that like one of them things where you tap it and it goes kind of like that, or is that a jaw harp? Yeah, you gotta let me know what that is. I would love to know what the tongue drum is. That sounds like an interesting. Where's the tongue drum from? YouTube it. Yeah, I'm a definitely YouTube. I've been watching. Yes, that's what I've been doing. I mean, YouTubing guitar playing videos. That's what I'm learning from. I tried it like last year before I moved down here. Okay, steel tongue drum like a hand pan. Okay, gotcha. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. But yeah, I've been watching YouTube videos. Before I moved down here in uh 2021, I was in Connecticut, and a friend of mine gave me his guitar. He let me borrow it. He said, just take it and just practice with it. So I was practicing, but I had too much going on. I didn't have time. But now I made time for it, so I'm eager to learn. But I might have to at least get started with some instructions. I might have to get like a teacher. Might have to get a teacher. But it's fun though. I ain't gonna lie. I enjoy the experience. Definitely enjoy the experience. So we're gonna get started in a couple more seconds. We're gonna hop in at the 7 minute mark. Used to play a mean harmonica. The harmonica is a cool instrument too. I think the harmonica get a bad rap. The harmonica gets a bad rap because the harmonica can be just as melancholy and bluesy as the guitar, but the guitar is just everybody's favorite instrument. That's right. Join the journey. That's right. All right, we're getting close to that 7 minute mark, so we're gonna get started in a couple more seconds. But I just want to say peace and blessings to everybody who is here, everybody who joined in. I'm glad you guys stopped by this evening, and I want to let you know that uh the information is free, the camaraderie is free. If the spirit moves you and you want to make a donation, it is greatly appreciated. All donations are going to me just trying to promote and market my book. I wrote a book for kids. I can't promote it here, but I want to just pay some money to market it and put it out there so it can reach more people and help more kids. It's a book I wrote to teach kids mindfulness and meditation to help them balance themselves and regulate their emotions and empower themselves. So I think it'll be pretty cool. So all donations are going towards that. And let me just get started now. So this is part 4 of the 5-part series that I started. The series is called The Five Beyonds. And what do we mean when we say the five beyonds? Well, basically, we're talking about anxiety and depression and how to go beyond that step by step. So the first part was beyond mind because the mind creates so much tension and so much drama, and if we can get beyond mind, we can escape a lot of that internal drama. Then beyond time, because when it comes to living your life, if you're going through depression and anxiety, time plays tricks on you. You feel as if the past is still happening right now in the moment, or if you're worried about the future, you feel like you're stuck in the future. But if you learn how to balance yourself and just immerse yourself in the present moment, you learn how to go beyond time. The present moment is the doorway to forever. So you escape time by just immersing yourself in the present moment, and you're not being dogged by the past, and you're not being crushed by the weight of the future. Part 3 was beyond the illusion, because when you are a person who's going through depression and anxiety, what happens? You create illusions. You don't see things as they truly are. So small things become huge. Really big things you try to minimize, and it leads to just so much self-destructive behavioral patterns. So we learn how to see past illusions and tap into what's real to help us to overcome depression and anxiety. And now we are dealing with part 4, which probably should have been number 1, to paraphrase Biggie Smalls. Beyond impulse. Now with beyond impulse, this is one of those things where sometimes I write and organize these live streams. And it's interesting to me because it brings back a lot of memories. Sometimes I'll strike a nerve and it brings back just certain memories, right? So writing this one was I won't say it was tough, but it just brought back a lot of old memories of how I used to act and how I used to think when I was going through severe depression and severe anxiety. I wasn't taking medication. I wasn't going to therapy. And I was the person who was really struggling with mental health. And because I was struggling with mental health, it led to a lot of impulsive behavior, a lot of impulsive behavior. And so what I did was I sat down and I thought about, the things I did and the way I used to act. And, just thinking back on all that stuff was a little I feel blessed. I feel even more blessed that I was able to overcome, because a lot of those behavioral patterns would have got me in trouble or would have got me hurt. So I'm very, very, very glad that I was able to have my awakening. And I want to help and assist other people to overcome as well too. Because if you're going through depression, you're going through anxiety, there's going to be behavioral patterns that go along with that are going to be self-destructive. Your depression, your anxiety, your trauma create your identity. Actually, it becomes your identity. Unfortunately, there are so many things about us that are the result of what we've gone through and of our mental state. So if you're a person struggling with depression, everything you do is focused around that depression. You created your whole identity around depression. If you're dealing with anxiety, you created your whole identity around your anxiety. If you've gone through trauma, create your whole identity around your trauma. And that's why it's so difficult to overcome these things, because we created our identity around the negative aspects of our experiences. And your identity leads to your behavior, impulses. And when you're mentally ill, think about it. You're mentally ill. It's like when you're physically ill. When you're physically ill, your body becomes sick. Your lungs are sick, so you can't move around as much. Your brain is foggy and dull. You can't breathe because your nose is all stuffed up. So when you have that sickness in your body, every part of your body is going to feel the sickness. Body aches, sweats, headaches. Right. Same thing with your mind. When you're mentally ill, when you're mentally sick, your thoughts become sick and your behavior becomes sick. So that's what we want to do. We want to address that sick behavior and try to put ourselves in a better mindset. Now, there's positive and negative behavior, and there's certain categories of negative impulses that I wanted to discuss tonight. And those categories, I'm going to go kind of quick because I want us to talk about it a little bit too, if anyone feels a need to share. So I'm going to go through this part a little faster than usual. But we'll take our time. I'm going to be strong, but I won't be too long. So those categories of negative impulses, I sat and thought about it and realized that in my personal life, my categories negative impulses were as follows: sexual, escapist, antisocial, and humiliating. I'm gonna say that again. These are the four categories of negative behavioral impulses: sexual, escapist, antisocial, humiliating. Now, why did I come up with those lists? Well, like I said, I'm coming up with this list of categories of sexual of behavior based on my personal experiences, based on how I was. So this is not me looking down on anybody or judging anybody. This is things that I've gone through myself. And the first one is sexual impulses. One thing that I went through and experienced with my anxiety and depression was I experienced like almost like a state of hyper sexuality. Like I was hypersexual. And the reason why I was hypersexual is because I was trying to find a way to ease the loneliness and create the illusion of connection. So for me, sex wasn't just about physical gratification, it was about desperation. It was about me desperately trying to connect, desperately trying not to feel as if I was adrift in this world. Because when you're going through depression, things don't make sense. Your mind doesn't make sense to you. You don't make sense to you. So you're going through depression and you're really trying to find something solid to hold on to, just to keep your world and your thoughts from being so chaotic. And so you put yourself in these situations where, especially when you're young, these feelings of loneliness, you only really know how to translate this into sex. Especially, back then before it became acceptable to have conversations about depression and anxiety. You, as a man, you're taught at an early age, listen, you feel lonely, have some sex. You feel insecure, have some sex. Something's wrong, well, have some sex. That's something that people will say to you. If you went to one of your friends and said, I feel depressed, your friends would be like, well, you need to get laid. And so believing that, feeling that, you go into a state of just, hyper arousal, constantly running around trying to connect with other people. And that leads to reckless sex, right? Meeting somebody, jumping in bed with them, not even thinking about consequences. It can lead to infidelity. Yeah, that's real true. It can lead to infidelity. Imagine you find somebody who you really care about and you really connect with, but then you can't be faithful to them. Because if you're feeling lonely and insecure, you could be in a relationship with somebody who's great, but you feel like it's not enough. It's not enough attention. It's not enough love. There's not enough connection. I need more connection. It's only because there's a hole within you. There's a book I read. Well, I didn't read the book, but it had an interesting title. It was called God Shaped Hole, and that's how it is when you're suffering from depression. There's a hole in you, a hole as big as the universe, and you're gonna keep meeting people and keep having these sexual experiences, really trying to connect. And no matter how much sex you're having, no matter how much energy you put into trying to connect with other people, what happens? You're never fulfilled. You'll never fill that hole. It's too vast. It's too vast. And then another thing that happens when you're dealing with depression and anxiety, sex on intoxicants. I remember when I was young, and this is an upfront adult conversation. When I was young, every single time I would, engage in the ritual, Bobby Hemmett calls it the ritual. When I engaged in a ritual, I was almost always high or drunk. Why? Because I was going through depression. And so I felt like I need as much stimulation as I could possibly get. Because who wants to engage in an act of sexual connection with the thoughts I'm having? 5 minutes ago, I was thinking about killing myself. And now here I am trying to focus on having sex. I don't want to think about none of this. So let me get drunk. Let me get high. Let me see if that makes the connection a little easier. Let me see if that eases the pain. Right? So for a long time, my only sexual experiences were while I was intoxicated. And then another thing that happens when you're dealing with depression and anxiety is sexual hyperdrama. What's sexual hyperdrama? When you can't engage in just sex. There's always a whole bunch of emotional attachments involved in it, a whole bunch of emotional reeling involved. You can't find your balance or find your center. Every act of sex leads to all kinds of internal turmoil. Do you really like me? I like you, but I want to be around you. There's always something. You can never just have sex and be at ease. There's always something going on within you, and that creates these situations around you. And sometimes the situations are just laughable, silly things you do when you're young. And sometimes the situations are just stupid. I mean, I just remember thinking back on some of the stupid things that occurred because of me just being in that depressed mindset. Having women you really don't connect with fighting and arguing over you, like, and then on top of that, you wondering if you're good enough, and it's always something. It's hard to engage in that kind of connection and that level of physical and mental activity and be at ease with it and just relax. It's always an explosion of emotions, sexual hyperdrama, right? And then when it comes to escapist, escapist trying to avoid certain feelings and triggers by engaging in avoidance behavior. So instead of you dealing with issues or connecting with people or having new experiences, you avoid everything. And then once again, that's one of the things that I went through when I was going through depression and anxiety. I would see other people go on trips and go have fun, and they would engage in relationships, and I would just be in the house drinking all day. And unfortunately, at that point in time, when you're in your 20s and you drink all the time, people think it's cool. I told you guys about how I used to go to bars, and I would go to a bar and I would buy a pitcher of beer this big and just walk around like a Viking, singing songs, waving the pitcher around, and just guzzle the whole pitcher of beer. And people thought it was, yeah, that's cool. That's Devin being who he is. But really, I was just a person who was dealing with severe anxiety, right? Severe anxiety. I had to avoid those feelings of being uncomfortable. So I couldn't explain them. So I had to just drink. That was my way of hiding them. And unfortunately, I was about to say luckily, but really unluckily, um, what I was doing was considered cool. When you're young and you're in your 20s, the more you could drink, the cooler you seem. So I spent a lot of time intoxicated because I was depressed as all hell. And I was super anxious. I remember me and a friend of mine, we invented our own like what do you call it, like a beer funnel, whatever they call it. And it was like 20 feet long. So he lived up on the second floor and he had like a little back porch where, and he would stand on top of the back porch with the beer funnel going all the way down to the bottom floor where I was. And I had a beer funnel and he poured a beer in, and all that beer would come and just slam me in the face like a sledgehammer. And we thought that was cool. And then we'd go somewhere and engage in all kinds of reckless, goofy behavior, drinking and driving and chasing after women and getting into arguments with people over stuff we can't even remember. It's crazy. Crazy behavior. But we were trying to escape. I was trying to escape. And the use of intoxicants is one of the ways that we try to escape. Gotta be high, gotta be drunk. Because you can't go anywhere. You can't run from your own heart, right? You can't run from your own feelings. You can't run from your mind. So what do? You tell your mind to shut the heck up. How do you do that? You get drunk, get high, pop a pill, put yourself in silly situations. Another thing that you do, and another escapist form of behavior is emotional outbursts and meltdowns. You're in a situation, you're being triggered. What do? You just have a meltdown. Everybody scatters. You know, I remember there would be times where I would be going through so much deep anxiety and depression, I would just break down crying. But people would leave you alone. So these emotional meltdowns were a form of escape, kind of like like an animal that's cornered, acts out, starts getting aggressive, or whatever, as a means of keeping other animals away. And that's what I would do. I have these crazy outbursts. I would have these crazy mood swings. I remember I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and his girlfriend came over, and she brought her sister with her, and I felt like, I don't know, I guess I felt anxious because her sister was pretty or something like that, and I felt like I was worthless. So I jumped out the window. I'll see you in a few, and just jump out the window. Emotional outburst. So everybody thought I was crazy, and they just left me alone. He's crazy. He jumped out the window. Just really mentally unbalanced behavior. Another way that we engage in escapist behavior is isolation. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have dealt with that. Not wanting to be around anybody, choosing to be alone for days on end. And I'm not talking about a normal kind of isolation, a healthy kind of isolation, because sometimes isolation can be healthy. Sometimes you need to recharge your battery. Sometimes you might need to take a couple days away from everybody to read and study. Sometimes, you might need to meditate. I've done isolation where I've just, spent a lot of time just meditating and reading. A lot of my spiritual journey was spent in isolation for, short periods of time. And that can be a beautiful thing, right? But at the same time, when you're isolating to the point where you're destroying relationships and destroying your own mental health and neglecting your needs, that's dangerous. Another way that we engage in escapist behavior is deprivation, or what I call need starvation. You need certain things to grow and survive as a person. We need food. So sometimes when you're having anxiety, right, the anxiety affects your body. We talk about this a lot, how your mental situation will affect the way your body feels. Your heart rate will increase. You get more cortisol. You'll feel more tired. Your immune system gets affected, right? So what happens is that in order to distract ourselves from that, we'll starve ourselves or we'll stay up for days on end. Your body will tell you you need rest. You say, no, I'm going to just stay up. You're starving yourself of things that you need as a form of distraction. You'll stop eating because that feeling of an empty belly will distract you from the feeling of an empty soul. You need connection with other people. You'll starve yourself for that connection because sometimes it's easier to feel lonely than it is to feel anxious. So need deprivation, need starvation. That's one of the forms of escapism and distraction. We've all done that. I'm depressed. Let me just watch TV. And a lot of times when you have these depressed moments, you might have a bout of depression or anxiety, and you fall asleep with the TV on. I went through a bout of depression one time. My TV was on for like 4 days straight. I didn't watch nothing. Just walking around the house, going from the computer, listening to music on YouTube, sitting in front of the TV while reading a book and looking at my phone all at the same time. Not focused on anything. Just trying to distract myself. Another form of escapist behavior. Antisocial. Antisocial behavior that's hurtful to others, avoidant of social connection, or incapable of social connection. And that happened a lot to me as well. I would try to connect, but because you have anxiety, hard to make those connections. And then it goes back to what we were just talking about, escapist behavior. So you get drunk. In order to go on a date, you get drunk. I used to do that when I was young, in my 20s. A real pretty girl. And I was one of those guys, I was so So it's strange talking about it now, but back then I was so insecure and I felt so nerdy. I felt like nobody wanted me, but for some reason I always had pretty women around. There was always pretty women around. Maybe there's something about me that I don't know is okay. But back then I always had really pretty women around me, and I would feel so insecure. So I would like, okay, I got a date tonight at 7, so let me hit the liquor store by 5, so I can have a couple drinks, and then by 7 o'clock, I'm not so nervous. And that antisocial behavior leads to more antisocial behavioral patterns, antisocial impulses, which lead to like addiction. Addiction is one of the antisocial impulses. A lot of times it's hard to connect with other people. What do you want to do? You want to get drunk, get high. Another one is being argumentative. And I've never really been an argumentative guy, but I've seen other individuals engage in argumentative behavior because they're antisocial. They're afraid to connect. It's hard for them to connect, or they're incapable of connection. So it's easier just to be argumentative and push people away. Another form of antisocial behavior, violence. Once again, I've never been a violent person. Never really been a violent person. I've always been very laid back, right? But I've seen people use violence as a form of being antisocial. And of course, another form of being antisocial is isolation. We isolate ourselves, stay away from everybody, don't want nobody around me. And then the last but not least, this one was very interesting to me. Humiliation. A lot of times when you have depression and anxiety, you have also low self-esteem, and you engage in impulses that are humiliating. You engage in impulses in order to be humiliated. Humiliation, creating self-punishment because you believe you have low value. And this is common with individuals who have anxiety, who have depression. I've been there so many times. I've been in those kinds of situations where you self-sabotage, but you self-sabotage so severely that you get humiliated. You get humiliated because you feel like you don't have any value. Other people don't really feel that way about you. So in order to solidify your sense of yourself, you got to create a reality that matches how you feel. They call it confirmation bias or the self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't have value, so it's time for me to prove I don't have value by doing something that's going to embarrass me or humiliate me. So you self-sabotage. When things are going good in a relationship, let me self-sabotage this. I don't deserve it. Time to humiliate myself. Something that I would do is pursue people who can hurt me. Pursue people who have hurt me. That's another one of the impulses of anxiety and depression. Somebody doesn't want you. They've already rejected you. They've already misused you. Let me chase after this person. Let me give it one more shot. Let me give it one more go. And it's not really because you're really that interested in the person. It's just that you need them in order to engage in this, bizarre autosadomasochistic impulse. You need them to prove to you your theory that you're unworthy. And a part of it is because you want to feel sad for yourself, but also another part of it is because you need the humiliation. You need the humiliation. You feel you need the humiliation. You feel like you need that humiliation because, well, sometimes because you feel like you just need. That's the only way you can get attention. Salute, my brother. But we'll get to that in a moment. So let's continue. Now, also, all these negative impulses that you have when you're going through depression and going through anxiety, there's a way to utilize them and get beyond them. We want to get beyond these negative impulses and retrain ourselves so that we can engage in positive impulses and beat these negative impulses out. You want to beat out being avoidant. You want to beat out trying to escape. You want to beat out these feelings of having low worth. You want to engage in positive impulses, not negative sexual behavior, not avoidant behavior. You get sick of it. Hopefully, you get sick of it. And mindfulness and meditation is one of the ways where you can gain control of these negative impulses. And just like, I always use the Bible as an example. What did God do in order to create the universe? First thing he had to do was create space for the universe to happen. And then he created light. And by creating light, he created time. Right? So that's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to create space and create time in your personal life in order for you to beat these negative impulses, right? And also you have to create space and time so that you can train yourself, because these negative impulses are the result of you not training, right? Just like a person who is a boxer. When you're a boxer, you train it so you engage in positive behavioral patterns. When you don't train, what happens? Then your behavioral patterns go into a negative direction. Same thing with your mind, your body, and your spirit. You have to train yourself, especially if you've been dealing with depression for years, especially if you've been dealing with anxiety for years. And some of us have been dealing with depression and anxiety for decades. So if you're dealing with these things for decades, you're going to need to train, retrain yourself, and retrain hard. It's a difficult task. But one of the things you're going to have to do is learn how to. That's what you need. If you can create enough space to take one breath, you've created space. And then one breath takes space in the span of time. So you've created space and time. So if you can do that, you created a space where you can think. And one thing that I realized was that the root of a lot of our negative impulses is actually positive. A lot of our negative impulses, right, come from a positive root. They're rooted in natural positive desires. You might have a desire for love, a desire for connection, a desire for vulnerability, and a desire for intimacy. These are natural, normal things. But it's just the depression and the anxiety distort these natural, healthy desires and turn them into negative impulses. So once you can create that space and time, once you can do that, if you can gain that much self control to take one breath, you can gain enough self control to try to ask yourself the question: what am I doing? What am I doing this for? Why am I engaging in this behavior? And you can reverse engineer the negative impulse to get to the positive root to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Like, say, for instance, you might engage in negative sexual behavior, pursuing people who don't want you, pursuing people who are toxic, having unprotected sex, having sex while you're on intoxicants. Why are you engaging in this behavior? Because you have a natural desire for intimacy with other people. And once you can see the natural desire, then you can call out yourself for the unnatural and toxic behavior patterns that you're engaged in. You can consciously say to yourself, you know what? I'm doing this because I want something good. I want something good to happen to me. All your negative impulses come from a place within you where you want something good. But you just trained yourself to go against your natural impulses and engage in negative and unnatural impulses. You can say to yourself, I'm calling this person who I know is no good for me at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's not just because I want sex, I want intimacy. You can say that to yourself. You can consciously call yourself out and say, I'm calling this person because I'm telling them I want sex, but I really want to be intimate. And then you can stop yourself and say to yourself, I want to be intimate, but I can't be intimate with this person. This person ain't no good. This person ain't no good. I'm not gonna get what I want out of this. I'm not gonna get what I want out of this. I've done that. Rob be like, let me call this chick real quick, see what she up to. Flirt with her over the phone. Then I'm like, hold on, wait a second. And I start thinking about the situation, thinking about the conversation, thinking about where it's gonna go. And I gotta tell myself, I'm not even gonna get what I want out of it. Even if I do have sex, I'm not really just doing this for sex. I want to connect and click with somebody. I can't click with her. I know that. Why am I going down this path? Because really, I just want to be intimate. And that's not a shameful thing. As a man, we've been trained and taught to think that the desire to be intimate with a woman in a way that's beyond sex is not cool. I used to get that all the time when I was young. I remember one time I had met this nice young lady and we spent the night together, but we didn't do anything, physical. I really just held her the whole night. And we just talked till the sun came up. I'm like, yo, that was so cool. I like those moments. I like those moments. And so the negative impulse of me pursuing women strictly for sex, which is not even really my nature, right? But really at the heart of it, I wanted that again. I wanted that moment of meeting somebody and the connection is so real that we can just talk all night and hold each other. And I'm not getting that with her, so why am I gonna call her? Let me put this phone down. Let me control this negative impulse. Now, as you know, another way, the escapist behavior. Let's reverse engineer the escapist behavior. I used to have anxiety, so like I said, I go everywhere and be drunk, go everywhere and be high. But at the root of these negative impulses is actually something good. What am I doing by engaging in escapist behavior? I'm trying to avoid pain, and that's natural. It's natural to try to avoid pain. And in some instances, trying to avoid pain can actually be healthy. Self preservation is the first law of nature. But unfortunately, you have to think and ask yourself, I'm not doing anything dangerous or painful. So why am I so afraid of pain? Right? When I used to be intoxicated, going everywhere, why was I trying to what pain was I trying to avoid? I was trying to avoid the pain of being a person with low self-esteem that go out in public and feel like I don't fit in. And then you learn about yourself and you could make a different choice. Instead of me going out to this club and this bar, I'm not a club and bar person. Let me go to a bookstore. Boom. Now I can connect. I don't have to be drunk to go to a bookstore because I want to talk about books. That's what I really want. Going to the bar and going to the club and getting all smashed, and I don't want that. So I'm going to reverse engineer the impulse all the way back to the positive natural root. And the positive natural root is I'm trying to avoid pain. Well, you know what? I don't have to feel pain. In many of these instances that we create in our minds, we don't have to feel these things. We just put ourselves in these situations that are gonna trigger us. We don't have to be triggered. You can avoid. I won't say you can avoid pain because pain is a part of life. But many of the situations that cause us pain and trigger us, we can avoid those situations and deal with the pain in other ways. Or sometimes you're gonna have to just be confrontational. A lot of times there's a lot of conversations I didn't want to have when I was young. There's a lot of things that needed to get discussed that I didn't want to discuss because I was so afraid, so anxious, had such low self-esteem that me trying to confront somebody, I would feel all brave, would pump myself up to go confront them, and they'd say one mean thing and I'd just be crushed. Wouldn't even be able to speak up for myself. But trying to avoid pain can lead to greater pain in the future. And there's a delicate and tactful way to do things where you don't necessarily have to experience pain as you're trying to address certain issues. Antisocial behavior. The antisocial behavioral impulses, reverse engineer those. And what's at the root? At the root, there's something positive. At the root, you're just trying to avoid toxicity. That's another thing. You're trying to avoid pain with the escapist behavior. You're trying to avoid toxicity by being antisocial. And sometimes that can be a good thing. There's plenty of people I've met, especially now in my 40s. A lot of guys I grew up with these are some tough lugers. These are some dudes in the hood that was, involved in the streets. They was always in the midst of the action, and they've been locked up or they've been shot or they lost loved ones. And then they said to themselves, you know what? I'm about to avoid these problems. They're trying to avoid toxic behavior. So that could be a positive thing. But also when you're being antisocial, you're shutting out positivity by being antisocial. It's okay to reduce your social stimulation, your social interactions if you feel like they're negative, but to totally isolate yourself and be antisocial or hurtful to other people because you're afraid of connection, that's not healthy. You want to avoid toxicity. Best way to avoid toxicity, I tell everybody, stop being toxic. Don't engage in antisocial behavior. At the root of it, you want to avoid toxic people. And you know what that means? That means you got to stop being toxic because you're going to attract what you are. Once you make yourself a better person and cleanse your mind, guess what? Toxic people stay away from you. Trust me. Trust me. When I stopped drinking, certain people just fell out my life for years. When I started living a more healthy lifestyle, stopped drinking every day, started eating healthy, started working out. Some people I stopped seeing altogether. So you don't have to be violent. So socialization is not a violent process. You can attract the people you want in your life by becoming a better person. So you don't have to push people away. You don't have to fight people off. You don't have to run from people with antisocial behavioral patterns. You can elevate yourself. And when you elevate yourself and raise yourself up out of the toxicity, guess what happens? You start looking around and you realize that everybody else around you is on the same wavelength. When I used to, be a dude living in the hood, going to the bootlegger at night, buying liquor, walking up and down the streets drunk and high. Those are the kinds of people I was around. Started reading and studying, meditating. All of a sudden, I'm meeting all these great, wonderful people who are into the same things that I'm into. Studying, sitting and talking with brothers about, the secret teachings of Islamic orders, and talking about Sufism, talking about Reiki, talking about all these wonderful things because I purified myself. Now, good people are around me. When I was on that gritty, I used to, be in the hood. People just pull up to me. I didn't even know who they was. I was just grimy. They was grimy. I hop in the car with them. We going to the bootlegger, drinking cheap rum. That's what I was attracting into my life. And then when I got tired of that, I didn't have to start yelling at people, "Stay away from me, I hate you." I just elevated myself. They didn't want to come around. When I stopped drinking, I lost a lot of and it was we never had a conversation about it. I just stopped drinking. And they didn't want to hang around me no more, which is good. And you avoid toxicity but you just purify yourself, your own toxicity. And then humiliation. Well, now that's a tricky one. What's the natural root of the humiliation impulse? The natural root of that is a desire for attention, or even a desire for power. Because if you do things to embarrass yourself and to humiliate yourself, you're not going to give nobody else a chance to do it. Other people ain't going to laugh at you because you created a situation in which, to an extent, humiliating yourself gives you a little bit of control. Before they laugh at me, I'm going to do something goofy that gives me control over the situation. They're going to laugh at me and I'm going to expect it now, as opposed to trying to connect with people, right? And I make a faux pas, try and tell a joke that ain't funny, try to flirt with a young lady and she don't find me attractive, try to spit some game at her and she's not feeling my game. Instead of me waiting to get rejected or waiting to get hurt, I just humiliate myself. But at the root of that, I'm really just desiring attention. I'm really just desiring to feel powerful in these situations. And humiliation is a sick, sick form of control. So what can you do to avoid those impulses? Create space and time. Take a deep breath and look for the root of these behavior patterns and understand I'm really just trying to get attention. How can I get some positive attention? Once again, elevate yourself. Elevate yourself. One of the greatest tools that I learned when I studied psychology in school, the key to building your self-esteem is not to tell yourself how great you are. The key is self-efficacy, because you can't trick your brain. You can't tell your brain, "I'm great, I'm handsome, I'm wonderful." If you don't really feel that way, it's not really going to work. What's really going to work is for you to develop yourself, develop those skills, and really be great. Really keep track of your development. Really keep track of how much you're growing. And then as you grow and improve, your self-esteem will grow and improve. And you'll begin to change because you see yourself differently, so your behavior patterns will change. You gotta create space and time. Just like God created a new universe by creating space and time, you create a new you. In science, they talk about how your brain is an 11-dimensional universe in and of itself. Your brain is so complicated; it exists on so many levels. It's actually 11 dimensions. And I did a live stream one time. We was talking about that. How the Bible was talking about there's 12 gates in heaven, right? And your brain has 12 cranial nerves. It operates off 11 dimensions. The 12th dimension of your brain develops a 12th dimension and you become God. We talked about that. You have that potential within you. You have that potential within you. If your brain has 11 dimensions, you can develop a new dimension. When they talk about the Messiah, that's what they're talking about. Somebody that's gonna take human evolution to the next level. But we getting we getting off into into my theories again. But that's no, I ain't gonna go all mystical. I don't want to get too mystical. I was about to start talking about the order of Melchizedek again. Let me stop. Let me stop while I'm ahead. Keep it simple. But the negative impulses that we have when we suffer from depression and anxiety have positive natural roots. Find the root. Be mindful of your behavior. Take a deep breath. Create space and time. Find the root, the natural, healthy root, and then operate from there. And it's going to take time because quite often, when you're a person who has low self esteem, depression, anxiety, trauma, there's the thought and then there's the response immediately. There's the stimulation, the response immediately. And what I'm asking is for you to take a moment to consider things, and that takes training. It takes training to consider what you're about to do, especially if you spent years of your life only responding to things in a prolonged attempt to destroy yourself. But create space and time. And most importantly, don't go into battle against yourself and try to learn how to fight in the heat of the moment. That's why when I was dealing with panic attacks, I wouldn't wait until I had a panic attack and start meditating. I would meditate as soon as I woke up. I would meditate on the way to work. I would meditate on the way back home from work. And then I'd get home and meditate some more. So if anxiety did kick in, I was prepared. My body was retrained. My body was in a state of training. So don't wait until you get into these situations where there's negative stimulation and an inevitable negative impulsive response. Train from now. Soon as you're done with this, start thinking about the things that you do. The more time you consider these things before you're caught up in these negative situations, the more prepared you'll be. Exactly. Building that spiritual muscle. It's very important to build those spiritual muscles, build those skills. There's two things. Yeah, exactly. You're doing it and it helps. There's two things. It's a coping skill and it's a coping mechanism. A coping skill is something that you work on and develop so that when something happens, you can handle it. Coping mechanism is something that you do as a way of trying to avoid really solving a problem. And I want you guys, I'm a solution oriented person. I'm not a person that's like medications. Soon as my doctor says, yeah, your blood pressure's a little too high, you gotta take this medication. And my brain, I'm immediately thinking of how I'm gonna get off it. I'm a solution oriented person. My doctor said, yeah, you're having these weird sensations because it's an anxiety thing. It's not that you're having, like I thought when I was going to the hospital because I was having panic attacks, I thought I had like a blood clot in my heart. I thought I was going to die. My doctor said, no, it's anxiety. I think it's an anxiety thing because there's nothing wrong with you physically. As soon as he said that, my first thought was, okay, how am I going to beat this? Exactly. And that's what, and I was much calmer in the storm too. And after a while, I got to the point where the storm don't even bother me no more because I trained. I was watching something today where I saw a video clip on Instagram of somebody surfing. Now I'm not an ocean person. Every time I get in deep water, I almost die. Every single time. I'm gonna put that right out there. Every single time I go in deep water, I almost die because I don't spend that much time in the beach. I'm not a beach guy. If I go outside, I like going to like the forest, going to the woods. I'm not a beach type dude. And plus, I'm not I'm not buff and sexy, so I don't like the beach. But anyhow, I saw something where a guy was surfing on a wave, and the wave was huge, but he was riding the wave perfectly. And I was like, man, I could never do that. And then I thought about it. I said, well, you could do that. You would just have to train. Milan, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna take all these compliments I get. I don't forget not one of these compliments. I be blushing. I be blushing when I get these little compliments. But yeah, same thing with that. Train. Train yourself. Nothing's impossible for a person who trains. Think about it. They got people who train to go to space. You got people who are right now training to go live on Mars. They training to say goodbye to their families and fly to Mars and live there till they dead. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like you, if somebody could train to go live on Mars forever, and I don't even know if they had, I don't even know if they have breathable air on Mars, but you got individuals training for that, then you can train to prepare yourself for stressful triggering situations. You can train to destroy anxiety. You could train to beat depression. And this is a conversation I've mentioned before, and I'm gonna keep mentioning it. Ask yourself, if you're a person who is seeing a therapist, you seeing a psychiatrist, you taking pills, people are giving you prescriptions, ask. You can ask. You have every right to say, you think I could stop taking these pills one day? Anytime I'm having like a health issue, because I'm a chunky dude. I mean, that's why I'm trying to lose weight now. I'm a chunky dude. So as you get older and you get chunky, doctors be like, yeah, your cholesterol is high. You gotta take these pills. The first thing I started asking every single time I get offered a pill is, do I gotta take these forever? What do I gotta do to stop taking these pills? I hate pills because there's always something stupid. There's always some stupid side effect. I'd rather just eat vegetables. Instead of me taking a pill for cholesterol, how about I just eat vegetables? That typically solves the problem. You got a cold, take this pill. I might used to chug NyQuil and wake up with a banging headache. And then I just said, well, why am I chugging NyQuil when waking up with a banging headache? Because I got a sniffle. I just chew some ginger, or I'll take a shot of apple cider vinegar. I'm a solution oriented person. Let's deal with the problem. I'm not gonna be walking around taking NyQuil and still sniffling and sneezing all day, and then take NyQuil at night and go to sleep, and then wake up with a pounding headache. I just chew some ginger. Problem solved. Same thing with depression and anxiety. Ask the question: how soon can I get off these pills? Or just tell them up front, I don't want to take these pills. What else you got? That's what I do. I go to my doctor. They be like, "Yeah, you getting fat. You need some cholesterol pills." Like, I don't want to take these pills. What else you got? I mean, as a patient, you have a right to ask these questions. And if a therapist or a doctor is saying you really need this, I'm not telling you to be defiant, but think in terms of how we can beat this. Can you be surprised at what you can accomplish? Well, I believe in you. I believe in all of you. I believe in all of you because, like I said, you hear my stories. Y'all hear all the stuff that I talk about, and I try my best to be open about it because I want you guys to not be afraid. Because depression and anxiety is something we keep secret. We keep it a secret and try to hide it from everybody else because we're afraid of what they'll think about us, right? But I don't want you to be afraid, so I tell my stories. And hopefully, in telling my stories, you guys can say to yourselves, man, this dude is messed up. This dude was crazy. I'm not nowhere near as bad as that guy, so I should be all right. That's how I want y'all to feel. I want y'all to feel like, man, this dude crazy. This dude jumping out of windows. He chugging pitchers of beer and jumping out of windows and having panic attacks and walking around for days on end without sleeping and hallucinating because I couldn't sleep. All of that. So I want y'all to see how crazy I am and say to yourself, I'm nowhere near as bad as that guy. If that guy can beat depression, then I think I got a chance too. And I believe in all of y'all. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Well, and I'm a sci-fi nerd a little bit. Frank Herbert wrote a book. Frank Herbert is a writer from the '60s. He wrote a book, real famous book called Dune, science fiction novel. And they had these characters in Dune called the Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit was like this order of women who had like mental powers and all kinds of stuff. And they had this thing called the Litany Against Fear, and the litany would go, fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. I'll face my fear. My fear will pass over me. I'll look back and it'll be gone, or something like that. It was really beautifully written. And I don't want you to be afraid. That fear is the little death, the mind killer. You'll be surprised at how much you can accomplish once you can beat your fear. Once you can face your fear, you open up a whole new dimension in your consciousness. But anyhow, I did a lot of talking. Oh my goodness! But I had a good time. I love having these conversations with you guys. And yeah, we're gonna be back next week with part 5 of the Beyond the Five Beyond series. beyond barriers, beyond barriers where everything becomes one. And I want to say good night to you guys. I want to say peace, love, and blessings to all of y'all, everybody who joined. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to talk about, you can leave reviews on my page, or leave comments on my page if you make a donation. And you can just say, hey, next week let's talk about this. I don't mind that. And also check out my profile. If I have anything going on, I'll put like, stuff in my profile. Have a look. And I'll be back here next Wednesday with you guys. All right. Milan, you're very, very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. And peace and blessings to all of you. Thank you for everybody who stayed up with me tonight. I'm about to go to bed. Love you guys. Love y'all to death. Love y'all to life. Salute. Peace out.